Hi there, welcome to my channel, Decoupage DIY with Joan-Marie Domino. If you have never used mulberry paper in with your decoupage projects, you are in for such a treat. This beautiful handmade paper adds so much elegance to your projects. I'm going to show you how to apply it onto glass, and then I'm going to show you how you can take your napkins and apply it right on top of the mulberry paper. I'm going to be using a glass. I got it from the Dollar Tree, but with the elegant mulberry paper, look at all the threads in that. It almost looks like crackled glass, and then a beautiful napkin on top. I'm going to completely transform this, and now you can make beautiful home decor. This is a glass goblet. I got it from the Dollar Tree. It cost me $1.25. Now, we're not going to be using this for beverages. Instead, we're going to transform it using the mulberry paper and fairy lights. All right, mulberry paper is handmade. It's beautiful. It's soft. It has all these little threads running through it. Looks very elegant on glass. Now, we are not going to be putting the mulberry paper on in one big piece. Instead, I'm going to be tearing it into little sections and putting it on like this. And here's a little sneak peek. Look how beautiful that is. Again, that looks like crackled glass. Looks like it's expensive and it took a lot of work, but really it doesn't. Now here's my first tip. Whenever we're decoupaging onto a smooth surface, especially glass, you want it to be nice and squeaky clean. So I'm just taking an alcohol pad, I'm going over the whole glass, and then I'm going to let it dry. We're not going to be painting this glass. Instead, we're going to be using the mulberry paper. Mulberry paper is so translucent. And because it's so translucent, wait till you see how beautiful it looks when you put a tea light inside. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm tearing the mulberry paper into little pieces. I'm going to be using glossy Mod Podge. Now, here's another little tip. I put just a tiny little bit of water, just a few drops, because mulberry paper is thicker than a napkin, and I find it needs to be just a little more wet. So just a couple drops of water. I'm going to start to put the Mod Podge right onto the glass. I'm only going to do small sections at a time, and I'm going to work from the top to the bottom. So here's my first piece. I'm going to lay it there on top. And if it goes over the rim a little bit, that's okay because we're just going to be sanding that part off. So I'm going to make sure that there's Mod Podge underneath, and then I'm going to smooth it on top as well. I'm going to pick up my next piece, and what I'm doing is I'm looking for it to kind of work like a puzzle. Like, it doesn't have to be exact, but if the pieces fit in like that, and I really got lucky on that piece, it really works better that way. But, having said that, really, it's very forgiving. With all the filaments running in there, it's really hard to see where you have overlap, so I don't want you to be concerned about that. Here's another tip. As you're going through the mulberry paper, any big, thick filaments, don't use those pieces because they actually hide some of the napkin when you put it on. So just pass on those and rip it around them, only because it really does look better when the little pieces of threads are smaller. All right, so now this piece was a little bit bigger, but I'm at a bigger section of the glass, so that's okay. I want to talk also about the mulberry paper because it is handmade. As you can see, I'm really going over the top a lot with the, there's a big filament, see, we don't want to use that, with the Mod Podge. And I'm doing that because mulberry paper, and this is a very technical term, it has fuzzies on it. So I find that when you go over it with some of your Mod Podge, it's going to kind of calm down all those fuzzies and give you a nice smooth surface. All right, I'm going to apply the other sections pretty much the same way. And if it overlaps a little bit, again, that's okay. I do want to say that I do have other mulberry paper videos. And one thing I have changed is I don't rip a whole bunch of little pieces in the beginning when I start the project, which is what I used to do. Instead, I find it easier to kind of tear a few and go along like that, because if I'm fitting it in like a puzzle, it's a little bit easier for me to look at the shape I need and then tear a piece of the mulberry paper. if you like the mulberry paper, as you see when I'm laying it down, because it really is beautiful, but maybe you think the goblet is a little bit overwhelming for you to start with, that's okay, because I have like ultra beginner mulberry paper videos where you're going to do small things like little tea lights and things you get from the Dollar Tree. In fact, I actually did a reverse decoupage using mulberry paper on a clear glass plate I got from the Dollar Tree. It's very pretty. It's so elegant, and I'm going to put that link below. I want to hold it up so that you can see what I've done so far. It's really pretty. It looks kind of white, but when it dries, it gets way more translucent. I'm going to put it back down. I'm only going to do that section because I don't want it sticking to the bag. I'm going to let it dry. Now the first section is dry, and you can see it's gotten more translucent, and I'm ready to move on. Now, I want you to take a look at what the glass is resting in. That is actually a rice basket, what I call. There's rice in a bag. I can position the glass in there any way I want, get the right angle, and it's not going to roll off the table. All right, I know some of you are probably wondering where I get the mulberry paper from. And if you've been following me for a while, this is actually kind of funny, but I can give you a link where you can get white mulberry paper, like a lifetime supply, but it's very inexpensive. And I mostly use white anyway, but I'm going to put the link below, down there in the description box. I am using exactly what's in that link. And a lot of you say, I want the same thing you're using, Joan. I want exactly the same thing. Well, that is exactly what I have. And it is a lot, but I've used it for many, many projects. Most of my napkins I use with decoupage has a white background. Anyway, so look. If you're looking for a lifetime supply of mulberry paper, super reasonable, then just click on that link below and you can get the same thing that I'm using. And speaking of following me for a while, I want to thank all of my followers who have been with me for a while. I love you guys. And if you're new to my channel, I want to say welcome. I hope you enjoy what I'm doing here and that you are learning something. And I'm taking you step by step. And I know that can always be helpful. I know that's how I like to learn things. And I encourage you then to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Decoupage D.I.Y. with Joan-Marie Domino. And oh, you see that one piece? It was a little bit too straight, so I tore it a little bit. Even though you're overlapping, I definitely recommend you don't use any of the straight edges. All right, I'm going to let that dry, and now I have a lot of it done. I'm picky, I know, but I can't help it. When I do mulberry paper, I still look for little spots I might have missed. Like right there, you could really see my finger right through that little window. Anyway, I don't want that window there, so I'm just going to take a little piece of the mulberry paper, a little scrap with a little bit of Mod Podge, and just put it right down there. And now you're not going to be able to see that little window, okay? When you put a light inside this, and I am going to be putting a tea light in, I'm going to be putting fairy lights in it, you actually can kind of see that. So if you're picky like I am, just go along the glass and put your hand in there, and you should be able to see where there's little spaces missing mulberry paper. Look at this. I'm almost done. I only have one little section left to go. It looks like cracked ice. It is so elegant. I love using mulberry paper. And again, if you buy that lifetime supply, the link I put below, you'll be able to do lots and lots of mulberry paper projects. All right, so I'm going to continue to rip the mulberry paper and put it down there on top of the glass. And I'm going to continue to overlap a little bit. And again, it's okay. Oh, by the way, I should forewarn you about doing this. When you work with mulberry paper, because you do it into little sections, your fingers get, another technical term here, gluey, okay? I find like if I have like my pack of handy wipes or baby wipes, whatever you call, to get the glue off my fingers, it's very, very helpful. When you do your mulberry paper projects, think about giving it as a gift. I know sometimes it's really hard to part with the things that we make, but I gave something similar to this to my niece when she got married and she moved into her home, and she absolutely loved it. She felt that it made a really nice nightlight, and it does, because it has the fairy lights in it, and the mulberry paper is translucent. It gives a beautiful glow. I usually keep one in the bathroom, especially if I have company or guests staying over, and I always have things like this in my hallway because my hallway is like really dark. And if I do have a guest staying over and I usually put something like this in the guest room, they end up taking it home with them. These do make great gifts, especially if you put the fairy lights in it. I mean, think of it for maybe a mother-to-be putting it into a nursery with fairy lights. It would be such a nice glow in a baby's room. Christmas, Mother's Day. This is just a beautiful gift you can give any time of the year. All right, so looks like I'm pretty much done with the goblet part, and now I'm going to go on and let that dry, and then I'm going to do the stem. All right, I turned the basket around so you can get a better view of how I'm doing the stem. All right, so the stem, it might be a little bit tricky because it's really thin, but just make smaller pieces. Just tear smaller pieces of the mulberry paper. And this is another thing I love about mulberry paper. I mean, wait till you hear this. You really don't see the wrinkles or the creases. So when you're down there doing these little sections of the glass, don't be concerned about it because with those little filaments and threads, you're not going to see any of the wrinkles. And now I've moved on to the bottom part of the glass, and I'm just about done. I'm going to hold it up so you can see how beautiful it is. And then I'm just going to let that dry. And then we're going to move on to the napkins. So it's all dry. There it is. And I have a pile of napkins. And guess where I got them from? My favorite napkin shop, Vippies Designs, www.vippies.com. They have like hundreds of napkins. And I love looking for napkins when I'm doing my projects. But sometimes it's so hard to choose. So when I'm doing this one, I'm trying to think, do I want it floral or do I want to have more of a nautical, beachy theme? These are beautiful napkins. I love all the florals, and the roses would be a really good choice. And here's a couple more. I love the birdie. Again, if you know someone who loves birds, look how pretty that would be on there. Again, that would make an excellent gift. I love that one too. It has lots of little like bouquets on it. All right, these are some other napkins I want to show you because I'm doing this one a little different than other ones I have done. I'm not going to be doing a water tear. Instead, I'm going to be doing what's called fussy cut. So fussy cut, if you've never heard the term before, it was new to me when I first started decoupaging. It means that you cut the image out of the napkin exactly. So there's no area around it. As you can see, I just cut the image out exact. Not all napkins work that way. You have to pick just the right one. Some just have too much detail, but that one would definitely work. I decided to do it this way because I've done other mulberry paper and I wanted this one to be different. All right, so I'm going to get my pair of scissors. They're little scissors, and this is the napkin I'm going to use. The little scissors work the best. I guess embroidery scissors is another scissor you can use. Now, I am not going to separate the plies. I'm leaving the plies together because if you do that, it's much easier to cut. I mean, try taking a scissor and doing this with a single ply of a napkin, and probably nothing is more frustrating than trying to do that. So I think one of my biggest tips if you want to do a fussy cut is to keep all of those plies together. Okay, and ta-da! I already had one all cut out, and look how beautiful that came out. So let me go ahead and put that to the side, and I want to grab my rice basket, and there is my beautiful goblet. Look at that. I love that mulberry paper. How can you not want to make like a ton of these? All right, so I have my napkin, my little piece of napkin with the rose on it, and now I am going to separate it very, very carefully because I just want that top printed ply. Now I'm going to take the rose and I'm just going to kind of move it around a little bit because you want to make sure you get it right in the right position, and I think I like it there. So I'm going to hold on to it with my thumb. And now I'm going to grab my Mod Podge. This is just regular Mod Podge. This doesn't have any water in it. This is the matte. And I'll put my brush in it. And now I'm going to start to brush the Mod Podge on underneath the rose. So I want to make sure I'm getting enough Mod Podge underneath the whole piece of napkin there. And as you can see, I'm also going over the rows a little bit with the Mod Podge at the same time. You know, we talk about sealing, you know, we have to seal our projects. And if I'm doing a project like this and I'm going over the rows anyway with the Mod Podge, I would think about maybe not sealing it, really depending upon what I want to do with it. All right, so I'm being very gentle because of the fussy cut. It's really definitely more fragile than when we do a water tear. All right, I had to cut these leaves separately because it was just too frail and it was just falling apart. So sometimes when you do this, you have to think about maybe cutting in a couple different sections and then just figuring out where it belonged in the first place and just put it back down. And that's fine, that's perfect, that's exactly where it was. Now I'm going to take a piece of plastic wrap. This isn't saran wrap. I find saran wrap just sticks to itself so much. This is just like sandwich wrap like delis use. And I'm going to smooth it over and peel it off. But I'm going to tell you another thing about mulberry paper is how forgiving it is. If you have a few wrinkles in a napkin, you're not going to see it with all of that fiber that you see in the little threads in the mulberry paper. It's really pretty. The napkin looks perfect on there after doing what's called a fussy cut. If you've worked with mulberry paper doing the soft water tear, give the fussy cut a try. Try something different. All right, now I have a little bit of a surprise. I thought, you know, a lot of times when we're doing our decoupage projects, we can do a different thing on each side. So I decided that's what I'm going to do with the mulberry paper tea light holder that I'm making. So this is a beautiful napkin, another napkin I got from Vippies Designs Hydrangea, and I thought this would look lovely on the other side. And I'm putting this on exactly the same way as I did with the rose, putting Mod Podge on underneath, and then as I flip the napkin back, I'm gently going over the napkin with some Mod Podge that's on my brush. You know what another idea is? I like this so much. It's not my idea. Even though I'm doing this on two different sides, I have seen some crafters do one side Christmas and the other side Easter, or one side Halloween and the other side Thanksgiving. It's such a great idea. As long as you're putting the mulberry paper on, most times you're only going to see one side anyway, so it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and do both sides of your decoupage project with the mulberry paper. And once again, I have put on this this is actually wrap from a deli. Delis wrap sandwiches in this, and I just found it works so much better than saran wrap. I'm going to put the link below so you can get them too, and they are really, really cheap. All right, I'm going to hold it up now so that you can see it. It's very pretty. Again, lovely with the mulberry paper. And there you go. One side, a beautiful rose. The other side, a beautiful hydrangea bloom. There you go. Rose, hydrangea bloom. I think I'm going to have trouble trying to decide which side to keep out. Now that the mulberry paper is done and I put a beautiful napkin, two napkins on the front and the back, I want to do a little finishing touch on the rim. So I'm going to take some gold rub-in buff and apply that just around the top on the rim. I am using, it's like a makeup sponge applicator. That's because rub-in buff is like a solvent, and if you get it on your fingers, it's really hard to get off. And believe me, I'm talking about life experience. It is difficult to get off. So make sure you use a little rag or a little applicator, and that's beautiful. I think it's a nice finishing touch. I think I'm going to do the bottom too. The next thing I want to do is apply a sealant. We want a sealant to protect our project. I'm going to hold it up so you can see. I did the top rim and I went ahead and did the bottom as well. I think it was a nice touch to do the bottom. All right, so here's the sealant I use. It's DuraClear. I'm using Ultra Matte because I don't like a lot of shine when I'm doing mulberry paper. That's completely up to you. So I put some of my DuraClear into a little container, and then I'm just going to brush it on. And when I put DuraClear on, I'm going to do a thin coat, all right? It's better to do thin coats and do a couple as opposed to just putting a lot on. Especially door clear, it's thin, and what can happen is you start getting drips. So I know it's hard, but be patient and do one thin layer at a time, just like I'm doing here. Of course, glossy and glitter, especially the Mod Podge Extreme Glitter, you can also use them on top. All right, love how that looks, and I'm going to do the bottom once the top dries. I'm going to hold it up again. I want to show you that there's the side with the hydrangea and there's the side with the rose. And as the door clear dries, it's going to get very matte. I just want to remind you that this is decor, no dishwasher, and definitely no microwave. All right, I went ahead and I put it up on my shelf so that you can see how beautiful they look. And there's the glass I used right next to it. So pretty. I took you step by step on how to apply the mulberry paper and then how to put the napkin right on top. And remember, I did a fussy cut on the napkin instead of doing a water tear. Now I want to show you what it looks like when you put a light in it. I actually have fairy lights in this so you can see what the difference is. You can also put a tea light in. That's completely up to you. So there's another look at the hydrangea and at the rose, and it's really pretty. And I'm going to show you some more pictures now of what it looks like with the lights in it. I want to thank you for joining me today. And again, if you are a new viewer, and I hope you will consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, Decoupage DIY with Joan-Marie Domino. And of course, if you are a returning crafting friend, welcome back. I do have other videos where I use mulberry paper. Here is a beautiful cookie plate I made. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the links for my other mulberry DIY videos below. My beautiful napkins come from Vippies Designs. Go to their website, www.vippies.com.